No, that's not the question.
Yeah.
Then the other one was, did you undertake any study visit to any country that is similar to Seychelles, just to learn how other bodies that do the same work that you do here are doing?
Pas moi en particulier, mais seulement nos secrétaires qui visitent facilité Kenya.
Not myself in particular, but our secretary visited the facility in Kenya.
You were secretary for the board?
The secretary for the board était avec une délégation Kenya.
The secretary went with a delegation to Kenya.
Okay. And were you part of that?
Non, mon parti forme partie sa visite.
No, I was not part of that visit.
Okay. Then I will not ask you what exactly you learned from them, because you were not part of them. Okay. Commissioner.
Okay. You said that after the incident that happened on the 5th and the 6th, you tried on the 12th, is it, to visit the prison?
We had a visit at the prison.
And unfortunately, you were advised that it was not feasible for you to go inside the prison then. Yeah. But after that, since the 12th up to today, have you had the opportunity to go into the mill block?
No, we've not. Nous pas allé dans main block. Non fait visite lo ban les autres d'Adoa.
We did not go to mill block. We visited other areas.
Et ça là moi in July là nous ti à lo bloc female.
In July we went to the female block.
Et il nous l'intention pour nous move lo bloc male prison.
And it was our intention to now move on the male block.
Okay, okay, that is your intention. But don't you think it would have been better to have had a visit immediately as it was feasible after the 12th?
The 12th, after the 12th, well, between...
because it's more than a year now.
A year.
Yeah. So, would there not have been a need for engagement with the inmates? Because some of them would have left the prison by now. So to have an engagement as to see what happened and consider their welfare as well as a result of that incident.
Mon mazine, oui, iti point boke sur pour faire qui non omit faire.
I think yes, that it would have been something good to do that we omitted to.
Mon mazine avec qu'il faut nous focus into lo has fait ban inquiry qui peut faire.
I imagine that our focus was more on the inquiries being conducted.
L'état nous peut regarder en arrière là peut-être nous ti devrait force nous les quoi un peu plus on pas connaît how qui côté succès qui nous ti point on a pour faire ça ou bien si tu peux approprier pour nous faire des mais c'est
Looking back, I think that we should have forced ourselves more to do it more, and I do not know from doing that or by doing that how much success or how much successful it would have been for us.
Or would it have been appropriate?
Or if it would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
So you learned that there was investigation that was going on. Did you ever get a report of the investigation?
Il y a question qui n'a pas pu attendre. Nous t'avons demandé en mars 2025, tu dis nous qu'on est encore au bonheur à cause la police n'a pas encore fini de faire son bon inquiry. Et nous dépendons de l'autorité pour provide nous avec les findings, mais nous n'avons pas encore gagné ça.
We were still waiting in March 2025 when we asked for it. They stated that it was too early, that the police was still conducting the inquiry.
However, je comprends pour dire qu'il n'y a pas une investigation qui est facile à cause qu'il y a beaucoup de monde qui est involved. Il y a beaucoup d'éléments qui faut des autres prendre en compte.
However, I understand that it's not an investigation that is quite easy. There are a lot of people involved, a lot of things for them to take into account.
Mais seulement so far, nous pas encore gagné un report.
But so far, we have not yet received a report.
Don't you think that at least the authorities, or you should have pursued the authorities to give you interim report at least? I know you say it's a complex issue, so many people involved, but for an interim report?
I guess que tu vas nous tinker faire li.
I guess maybe we could have done so.
Mon papa dit là pour dire nous tu risques pas gagner qu'on nous pas demander mais seulement thinking about it now. Que tu vas vrai nous tu devrais être capable de faire ça.
I cannot say that there was a risk of us not receiving it, but thinking about it now, yes, we could have done so.
Because you would appreciate that had you received an interim report, at least you would have had a better picture of what happened and recommend certain steps to be taken in order to prevent such from happening again.
Moi, avec vous, mais bonne recommandation qui nous tient déjà fait auparavant avec recommandation qui nous fait là.
I agree with you, but recommendations that was done before and the ones that we are doing or have done now.
Ils font partie dans prévention pour empêcher sa bonne qualité trouble arriver côté prison.
The prevention of preventing these sorts of troubles from happening at the prison.
So malgré qu'il nous n'a pas interaction directe vis-à-vis ça l'incident.
So even though we do not have that direct interaction with regards to the incident.
Pour nous faire recommandation, mais c'est maintenant fait à aider aussi quoi qu'il y fait pour empêcher same thing arriver.
To make recommendations, but we also have a fair idea about what can be done to prevent such things from happening again.
And l'avantage nos diversité du monde dans sa comité et aider pour nous capables engager nous pour nous faire recherche pour voir d'abord différents les autres modèles quoi qu'il peut pratiquer.
And the advantage that comes with having a diversity of people involved in that committee was that it helped us to be able to conduct research about the adversity.
Dans différents modèles à travers le monde, dans différentes prisons à travers le monde.
Through the different models and prisons throughout the world.
Et avec l'observation que nous faisons pour nous capables faire the appropriate recommendations.
And from the observations that we done for us to be able to make appropriate recommendations.
So you made certain recommendations already?
We've made recommendations, yes.
Okay. Would such recommendations have touched on the use of military to engage in such a situation as like a riot in prison?
No, we have not made such recommendations.
And but maybe that I will ask to you. I don't know if the board has an opinion on that. Do you believe that the military should be used as part of a force to quell down any riot that presents itself at a prison?
I cannot answer that question.
But did you make any recommendations regarding training as to how a riot situation should be dealt with if it arises?
Pas spécifiquement le riot, mais recommandation, le training qui est relevant avec travail de la prison.
Specifically with regards to the riot, but recommendations with trainings that should be available at the workplace at the prison.
Spécialement avec un target group pareil.
Especially with the target group as such.
What do you know about the prison incident that happened itself? Do you have any first-hand knowledge, or were you told anything?
Moi, n'a pas first-hand knowledge. qui me connaît, mon connaît, et premièrement, l'état est arrivé à travers les médias.
I do not have first-hand knowledge. I had known about that firstly through the media when it first happened.
Après, le temps de faire conversation avec les officiers à la prison même.
Then when we had conversations with the prison officers.
Après, bien sûr, bonne présentation qui n'en a pas commission. Plus tard, ça donne un peu plus d'informations.
And then of course through the presentation that the commission had done, this provided certain information to us.
I appreciate that you said you talked to the prison guards as to what happened, but was there not a need to engage with the inmates themselves to know exactly what happened? Because obviously the prison authorities would give their version of what happened, and then the inmates would give a version. Then you are in a better position to appreciate and make recommendations.
Pourquoi nos blocages viennent dans les sens qui l'État ne comprend pour dire la police peut investiguer.
I think the blockage came in a sense that when we were made to understand that the police was investigating the matter.
Pourquoi ça crée in a way, in a blocage, in a way.
In a way that for us was a sort of blockage.
À cause de l'interprétation, c'est que nous peut interférer d'une façon qui est inappropriée de l'État.
Because our interpretation of the matter was that we were interfering in an inappropriate manner at that time.
So that was the interpretation that the board itself decided on? Or you say that was your interpretation. I'm asking whether that was the interpretation of the board.
Moi, peux dire l'effet qui l'État nous engage pour dire le timing pour nous aller, pour nous interagir avec les prisonniers, pas si bien à cause de Tchakopé, c'est cette la situation.
I'm saying that the fact that we were told that the timing and the time that we came to for that situation was not appropriate.
Et dans l'intervention la police.
And there was the intervention of the police.
Moi, crois ça dans lui-même, il crée cet blocage de nos côtés pour nous pas peur sur pour dire non, nous si nous les faire nos own investigation.
That in itself presented as a blockage for us that we were unable to say that no, we needed to conduct our own investigations.
À cause inmates peut déjà interacter avec law enforcement.
Because the inmates were already interacting with law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate what you're saying, but at the end of the day, you are mandated with bringing to the attention of the minister issues of welfare of inmates. So if you do not engage, you cannot bring that to the attention of the minister.
Yeah. Pour ça, l'événement en particulier, nous n'avons pas ça la qualité d'engagement.
For that training in particular, we do not have that.
Non, pas training. Pour ça, l'événement en particulier.
No, sorry. For that event in particular, we do not have that engagement as such.
What is your or the board's opinion on isolation cells?
Isolation cells, il y en a son mérite, mais il y a son régulation aussi pour combien de temps est dans isolation.
It has its merit, but there needs to also be a regulation to state as to how long a person should be kept there and so on.
Et aussi, ça protocole quand dit mon gars check upon and communication, il reste avec le monde d'isolation, pas le monde qui peut manager sa situation.
The protocol whereby communication are kept between the individual in isolation and people there in place to manage these sorts of things.
Après, pour la différentes raisons que tu as causé du monde qui est en isolation.
Because there are several reasons as to why somebody would be put into isolation.
Et on a des fois pour son propre safety as well.
Sometimes it's for their own safety as well.
So, il y en a son place dans une facilité prison, mais c'est moi, il y a son guidance qui m'a servi, il est clair.
So it has its place in a prison facility, but there needs to be guidance or about how it should be operated.
Has the board ever made any recommendations to the minister as to how the operation of isolation cells should be?
Non nous pas jamais fait recommandation là.
No, we never made any recommendations on that.
À cause non prend automatiquement qui il besoin en sa régulation en place.
Because we took it automatically that there needs to have
Non
that,
qui y en a ça
that there is in place that regulation.
et après qu'il est au peu de ban différentes interventions nous comprenons gens viennent plus qui peut-être il pas existé.
And then when looking at different interventions, our understanding becomes more and more clear that it did not exist.
So would the board now be making any recommendations to the minister in respect of isolation cells?
Nous imaginons il pour une recommandation qui il devrait faire.
We would think that it's a recommendation that needs to be acted upon.
Okay. And what are the matters or that you believe would have triggered off the incidents that happened on the 5th and the 6th?
Imaginez bien un cluster, quelque chose qui est arrivé, mais seulement quelque chose en particulier, peut-être. Et on est ça target group là, il y a un groupe de monde qui
I imagine that there was a cluster of things, events that had happened that day, but I would think that there's the target group of individuals.
je prends tendance pour faire ça qu'ils ont en désir faire.
That have tendencies of doing what they want.
And
When you say there's a cluster of people,
ban
who are you
inmates,
talking
ban
about?
inmates. Inmates en général, ban du monde qui fait l'offense en général.
Inmates, in general, people that commits offenses. That
La majorité des autres, pour les faire ça qui ont envie.
majority of them would want to do whatever they desire.
And quantité fois, quelquefois les temps, ils prennent quelque chose qui essentiellement qui menace les autres confort.
Many times when there is a change that threatens their comfort,
Les autres pourraient agir et les autres pas pour mind pourraient agir dans les autres extrêmes.
they would react and they would not mind to react in an extreme manner.
À cause de confinement, c'est quelque chose qui, c'est les outils qu'ils ont tendance, c'est les autres comportements, les autres paroles qu'ils ont pour servir.
Because they are in confinement and the only tools, weapons that they have would be their behavior, their words, things that they can use or say or do.
À cause avec nouveau management, et quelque chose qui nous observé,
Because with the new management, things that we have observed,
l'administration typique commande qui bonne inmates par exemple, autres en l'hygiène.
the administration was demanding that the inmates have hygiene.
Par exemple, autres façons qu'ils ont l'habillement, cause on a des fois difficiles pour comprendre lesquels qui mettent Montagne Posee et lesquels qui civiliens à cause tout le monde habille de civil.
Example, the way that they were dressed, because there was a point in time where you could not tell the difference between inmates and civilians because they were all dressed the same.
Par exemple, pour demander qui la façon qui ou à terre ou CV est coupé, ban search que tu peux faire. So, dans nous l'opinion, nous imaginons pour dire ça in dérange antigène ban inmates à cause il
For
pas ban quelque
example,
chose qui ordinairement d'autres types habitués faire, ça donne une qualité changement.
The way you should attire yourself properly, the way you should cut your hair, and these are things that I believe destabilizes the inmates
Ban
because it was
search,
things that they were usually doing and suddenly stopped.
il semblait que ban search était un peu plus intensive.
And it seemed that the search was more intensive,
And moi quoi in disrupt and again zot routine.
which disrupted their routines a little bit.
Et avec les autres quelque chose, il encourage ça qui nous va arriver.
And there were other things also that encouraged what we saw happen.
Mais seulement, nous sérieusement besoin prendre en considération modèle et prison.
But we need to seriously take into consideration the model of a prison.
If you as a board were to make any recommendations to the minister, and you say you're going to meet the minister very soon, what would these recommendations be?
Encore nous pour focus en quantité de sécurité à cause sécurité non pour faire avec training qui donne nous bandi monde.
We would focus more on the security because
Not
security
more.
has
Not
Pas
more,
slow
a
là.
lot.
a lot
On security.
on security.
Ça il point clé qualité training qui staff y besoin en an.
And this would include types of training that staffs are required to
À
have.
cause connaissance staff il peut aider dans réhabilitation ban inmates.
Because the knowledge of the staff will help with the rehabilitation of the inmates.
Pas juste training qui m'a handle du monde, but training en général qui m'a ou comprendre du monde, qui m'a ou travailler avec du monde, qui m'a ou communiquer avec les autres,
Just training on how to handle people, but how to work with them and communicate with them,
identifier les autres ban needs
identify their needs,
et collectivement travailler pour faire ban needs qu'ils mettent.
and collectively work so that the needs are met.
Et pour ça aussi venir un peu plus créative, par exemple étant un inmate pas capable de recevoir visite pour various reasons.
And for them to become more creative, for example, if an inmate cannot receive any visits for several reasons,
On a un arrangement alternatif, at least ça dit mon va connaître c'est qui tout sa famille est bien, quelque chose comme ça, pour lui aussi sur la tête en paix.
alternate thing aside from that, for example, allowing that person to know that his family members are okay, everyone is okay, so that he can have peace of mind.
Après les autres facilités, il devrait être un qui allow inmates pour vivre, like, pour apprendre l'éthique.
And then that their facility is built in a way that allows the inmate to learn about ethics.
À cause de beaucoup de monde raté dans la vie, côté concerne la vie famille, so ils require un environnement qui est supportif pour être capable de retourner dans la société.
So, because there are a lot of those individuals that have missed out on, for example, their family life, and that they need to be able to reintegrate in the society.
So connaissance staff, il peut aider dans enhance mentalité, capacité, ça ban du monde qui dans la service.
So the knowledge of the staff would help with enhancing the mental capacity of those people that are in those services.
Ils pour connaître about conflict management
They would know about how to manage conflict,
and aussi qui moyen pour faire restitution amongst ban inmates as well autres avec autres familles
and how
ou bien ban du
to
monde qui autres nous offensés.
perform restitution with the inmates, with the family members, and with people that were offended.
So the appropriate training il peut faire du monde connaît vraiment quoi qui est prison service il require.
So the appropriate training would make someone know exactly what is required in a prison cell.
Par exemple, étant inmate et de prison, je t'en ai enfants dehors. Les enfants ont besoin de rester en communication
For
avec les
example,
adultes.
if inmates are in prison and they have children outside, the children needs to stay in communication with the parent.
Et nous faisons recommandation qui ça y arrive, on a fait ça même pour les autres enfants les histoires ou bien pour aider avec homework à cause du besoin quand il garde sa bond between la famille avec inmate.
And we made recommendations that things like that happen. For example, they get FaceTime for them to be able to read bedtime stories to their children or about school work, so that the bond between the family remains.
Il est important que ça bond il reste mais il y a l'état ban inmate il a ou pas gagner bonne situation côté Inga quitte derrière, il besoin fend for himself, be herself. Pas qu'on est côté pour aller à famille, move on.
It's important that that bond remains, because when they are released from prison, then they have somewhere they belong to. They are not just left
So,
behind.
nous besoin tout ça, bonne capacité pour capable run ça l'endroit.
So we need to look at these capacities to be able to run this place.
Par exemple, ban qui est encore adolescent, qui est entré de prison, est-ce que ça l'endroit pour le devrait être?
For example, the adolescents that goes to prison, we ask ourselves if this is the place that they need to be.
Je peux mélanger avec ban adulte et je les ai ouvert in the wrong sense.
They are mixing up with adults, and their eyes are being opened in the wrong sense.
Et les autres, le monde est différent avec adulte, même si ils ont commis l'offense.
And their world are different to that of the adults, even if they have committed offenses.
So nous besoin on a sa facilité qui cater pour eux.
So we need to have facilities that caters for them.
Yeah.
I thank you, Mrs. Amit, for suggesting that. It's something I've always been advocating on, that they should have more contact with the families. At least I've always said that they should have at least FaceTime with their children, and regularly, I believe. Okay, thank you for that. Anyway, anything else regarding the incident that you feel this commission should know about?
No.
Madam Amit, your office as the advisory board, were you receiving constant correspondences from the prison authorities in order to inform you? Because you could not go there every often. So documentation that would inform you of what was going on inside the prison, so that you could come to certain knowledge. Yeah, like for example, I know in the prison they normally had monthly meetings, and they kept a performance monitoring database. Was this sent to you, so that you could, know exactly what was going on during the month? You could find the strengths and the weaknesses that were existing for this month in the prison?
No.
No.
So, don't you think this would have been good to sort of guide the board? Because, as you said, you couldn't go there all the time, so you could know exactly what was going on.
Définitivement.
Definitely.
And nobody suggested that they would send this to you.
No.
No.
Okay. One other thing that you spoke earlier about training, and you were talking about managers and people knowing how to manage people and stuff. Were you made aware that there were a whole lot of dynamic security training that was given to the prison guards?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you know what dynamic security is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it was effective? Because lots of people passed through this course. Do you think it was effective after what you saw happen?
Mon papa a fait l'opinion là à cause ça il y a l'événement, il y a un one-off et mon vraiment pas con contexte avant ça t'est arrivé in terms of capacité qui t'est à l'état l'incident qui est arrivé.
I cannot make any comment on that because this could be viewed as a one-off incident and without knowing the context of the capacity that was there in place when the incident happened.
Quand on a des fois les temps il dit mon papa joue football, il peut get football. On a des fois il dit côté boule il devait taper, qui m'a devait taper. Faut des temps ou dans la situation ou même pas vrai, c'est mon par contre contexte l'étant sa situation est arrivée. So, moi pas qu'à
Sometimes
faire un commentaire là.
an individual can be looking at a football match and be saying where he thinks the ball should end up without even playing himself. So that can happen sometimes. So that's the situation we are having now. I cannot make any comment on that without knowing the context about the situation that happened itself.
Yeah, so I understand what you are saying, but where I'm coming from is that training in dynamic security ensures that the people going through this training are the people who exactly knows how to deal with daily prison matters, the conduct of the inmates, and the daily lives of the inmates, the way to talk to inmates. All of this is in dynamic security. And my question is, don't you think lack of, probably they did not understand what they went through, the course, or something went wrong. This is why this incident happened. Don't you think it was?
You know, ça qui, moi pas qu'à assume qui, je pas comprendre la course or whatever.
I cannot assume that they did not understand the course or something else.
Moi qui vient de mon la tête, moi puis regarde suffisance human resource à terre.
What
Quand tu dis moi qui
comes
t'appelle
to my head,
travail,
I'm looking at
comprends?
the amount of human resources available that
Est-ce
was
que
there
la
working.
quand tu te dis mon qui t'y là en intervalle, it is adequate pour the practice d'après the training.
What's the
So,
amount
rien,
of
c'est
people?
difficile pour moi faire l'opinion à cause je connais vraiment highly understaffed
That
pour faire
was there
aucun
was
excuse.
adequate for them to perform their duties. That's why I cannot formulate an opinion
Yeah.
because I know that they were very understaffed.
So moi pas qu'à vraiment faire l'opinion là.
So I cannot really make a comment on that, an opinion on that.
So if I may ask you, Madam Emit, would you be able to just tell us, if you know, what were the causes that prompted this incident to take place?
Moi pas connais.
I do not know.
But did you hear afterwards what was it?
Yeah, ça qui entendez. M'entend différent quelque chose, mais c'est bon pas qu'à dire ça, moi me connais. Ça qui les histoires du monde et quand tu fais les histoires, il y en a l'histoire là derrière, vous comprenez?
What you hear, yes, I heard things, but I cannot say that these are things or matters that I know personally. And several times, a lot of times, when you hear a story, there's a history behind it.
But somewhere along the line, I heard you say that when there are changes in the prison or anywhere, there are certain discontentment with regards to what is happening. And you mentioned something about searches in the prison. You said there were more searches.
Intense.
Did you know that there were no searches being conducted in the prison?
At
Just
the entry point,
at the time that there was the new CP, until she left, there was no searches being carried out in the mail block. Were you made aware of this?
I do not know about the mail block, but I know the searches at the entry points were being conducted at the main gate as well as the upper gate before they enter the main block.
Yeah, this has always been there. It's just that inside the mail block, there was a lack of searches, and this is when, according to testimonies we heard, there were lots of contraband inside the prison, and obviously this was brought to our attention here. So nobody told you
So,
about this?
non, mon tende, zot pe di sa.
I heard them saying that.
Mais c'est at the same time, to be honest, in tout le temps, on a quelque chose illégal de prison.
But at the same time, to be honest, there has always been illegal things in the prison.
À un moment vraiment étonné, ou la côté possession qui est condamné, il y en a avec lui de prison, qui
I
pas
was
de temps.
very astonished to find out the amount of possession that a prisoner has in prison that he or she should not have.
Yeah.
But you brought this to the attention of the authorities.
Nous causons là pour dire nous besoin introduire uniforme pour nous cut down nos possession qui dit mon à cause
Oui.
de temps on a beaucoup de possession. Grand sens pour savoir quelque chose aussi. Entrer et gagner cassette. Il a so discipline il pas ça qui nous dit prisonnier.
About it also to have uniforms in place and to help preventing the amount of possession that a prisoner should have, because most of the time these things are being brought in to the prison and the discipline.
Discipline is the whole culture of management prison.
Is the whole culture of the management of the
À
prison.
cause les voilà où certains inmates pour y en a plus paquet biscuit que l'autre. Qu'on est pas na battering en de là-bas.
Because
Na
if you
sens ça pour
allow,
nous gagner ça. Vous
certain
comprenez ça?
inmates or individuals to have more, for example, biscuits, packets of biscuits than another inmates, then of course there would be
Battering.
battering
So ça
from,
existe.
as a result of
Ça existe un exemple quand une situation sécurité ou bien discipline qui a compromise.
This is just a mere example whereby the security situation can be compromised.
À qui plus ici pour un héros de
The
prison.
richest one would be a hero.
So nous besoin un like un standard qui quantité qui on a droit en
There needs to be a standard in place about how much can you have.
et une normal practice pour inmates en autre boîte Milo, autre boîte Ovaltine, autre boîte Gilles.
And it has become a normal practice for inmates to
Quand le
have their
débutant de
Milo,
la salle à manger,
tin of Milo, tin
boire
of
tout ça là
milk.
là-bas. Quitte tout ça ban qui sont là-bas.
All of these things should be kept in
Ou
the
les
kitchen.
débutant ou uniforme, sadak ou dormir là, whatever. N'a pas rien.
Your bed should have only your uniform and the piece of cloth covering your bed. And
Et pas donne
that's it.
l'opportunité pour un power struggle parmi les inmates à cause des autres possessions qu'ils ont en.
And do not give the opportunity for inmates to have power struggles due to the amount of possession that each of them have.
But obviously, all what you said, did you bring it to the higher authorities?
Non fait lien recommandation côté concerne la quantité de possession qui inmates y en a.
We made recommendations with regards to the amount of possession that each inmate should have.
Mais c'est moi l'expectation aussi, c'est que management it take care of the operation of prison.
But the expectation is that the management also takes care of the operation of the
À
prison.
cause body pas dans des tout de l'opération et ça il y en a pour faire avec l'opération ça.
Because the board do not go to the day-to-day operations, because this has to do with the operations.
Yeah, but my question is that if the board found that what was happening was not good for the prison setting, yes, obviously you would take it back to the prison authorities and tell them, look, this is not right. Okay? Did somebody get back to you about those recommendations that you made?
Et pour recommandation, il y a adresse to the minister.
Yes.
Recommendation are addressed to the minister.
CP li pone copie.
The CP would have a copy,
So il pouvait une interaction interne prison.
so it would be an internal interaction.
Vous comprenez? Et nous pouvions après sa communication interne.
And it would come
C'est
after
mon-
that internal
C'est moi nous pas
interaction.
capable de dire CP qui m'a il pour run.
But I cannot tell the CP how he or she should run.
Nous capables adresse concern and mais c'est moi il pour l'oli pour lui faire un ouvrage à un CP.
We can address the concerns, but it would fall on the CP to do his or her job.
Li avec son team.
He or
Non avalat
CP's
minister
team,
pour
sorry.
dire this is quoi qui board il peut advise
we can go to the minister and present what the board is advising.
et il pour à son niveau pour lui aussi en son structure en place pour assurer qu'il day to day l'opération prison il gagne fait par il devrait gagner fait.
And it would be his responsibility to make sure that the day-to-day operation of the prison is functioning.
I might just afterwards. But, Madam Amin, did you know that according to information we have in the prison, you said that there was this interaction between parents and children, those ones that were in prison. Their children outside, they could visit and whatever.
Non, mon peut dire nous recommandations, nous peut recommander qui connexion between parents et enfants.
Yes.
Il restait.
No, what I'm saying is that one of the recommendations is that the connection between parents and children remains.
Now, and one other thing, probably when you were, that you are in office, are you having this restorative justice campaign going on in prison as you are now the chairperson?
Il y a une campagne qui nous non take up pour les arriver de la prison, mais c'est il y a quelque chose qui nous peut dire réintroduire à cause qu'il y a déjà introduit. Après, il y a une phase out.
It's not a campaign that we took up in prison, but it's something that we recommended that is introduced again because it was there.
Déjà introduit après une phase out.
It was reintroduced, sorry, but afterwards it phased out.
Mais seulement, par exemple, les temps nous interacté avec des principal probation officer,
But for
ils font
example-
partie d'autres initiatives pour réamener encore la
When we
prison.
spoke to the principal probation officer, it was informed to us that it was part of the initiative to bring it back
À
again.
cause un petit monde dans nos boards est déjà impliqué dans restorative justice.
Because someone on our board was once implicated in restorative justice.
Il y a des gens qui facilité aussi.
That person was someone that facilitated things
Alors,
also.
tiens, dans la discussion, c'est pour dire ça devrait être considéré.
So there was that serious discussion that needs to be reconsidered.
Et il y a quelque chose qui se peut regarder là-dedans et nous allons espérer pour donner autres le temps pour établir les autres.
And it's something that they are looking into, and we would wait to give them time to establish themselves.
The reason why I brought this to you, Madam Emmett, was that if I remember well, there was an organization in South Africa, and they did this on a voluntary basis. They came to the Seychelles every year to carry out those sessions with the inmates, and this was really, really helpful with the inmate community. So I suppose you
appeals.
to keep this in
I
mind.
recall that, yes.
Il y a un bon programme.
And
It's a
this
good
was
program.
it was always advocated by Bishop French Chang Him. He was the one who really pushed about this always to happen. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll stop here.
Okay. Did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any more
Nothing.
questions.
Just one quick question. Do you have a lawyer on your board?
No, we don't.
Okay. All right. So when you need legal advice, where do you get that from?
We would request from the minister's office, and normally that will come from AG's office.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Is there anything you would like to share with us that we may not have asked you that you think is relevant for our work?
If you would allow me a few minutes for me to perhaps highlight the recommendations that
Okay,
we've
please
made.
go ahead.
Okay. So we've made recommendation with regards to the youth offenders facility on Prale, and so that they will be well staffed and the appropriate activities will take place over there. So we've given some details what and perhaps why. Perseverance Detention Center, where we've recommended needs to be upscaling to avoid outsiders from transferring contraband onto the premises. Like we've recommended for raising of boundary walls, installation of more security cameras, installation of protective measures against use of drones, because there was a time when there were drones up there. The Perseverance Detention Center also lacks air circulation, so we've made recommendation that this is looked into, and we were informed that they were considering to make an opening on the side facing the court here to at least allow more air circulation in there. And also that the center be equipped with a sound system where people on detention can be motivated with the right music, right sort of narratives, and instead of them being idle, so on and so forth. And this will help to reduce stress, ease tension, and good for their well-being. Wadaw's detention center is overcrowded, and elevated tension creates a high-stress environment that affects both detainees and staff. So we highlighted the inappropriateness of that place, that perhaps it should be moved. We observed that there was only one main exit door, so if there's anything that happens in there, the well-being of people are compromised. And of course, there are other things under that. Recommendation for rehabilitation program for prison services, and that include establishment and implement a mental health program, including initial screening upon prisoners joining, referring to their interview on their interests, so that at least they can prepare a program that will suit the needs of the prisoner and help in the rehabilitation. Introduction of family literacy program for inmates who are parents and are serving sentences, like I explained previously. And this could also include participation from other agencies like National Council for Children. They can help mentor, teach parents how to do that communication. They need to be given some sort of training for that. In addition to standard visits, offer supervised virtual communication with own children where appropriate as an incentive for good behavior. Of course, where there's been abuse, especially the sexual abuse, this will compromise the privilege. Introduce parenting classes so that we will cut down on domestic violence, increase ability of inmates to understand the rights of their children as well. Development of internal working groups for transfer of skills, because we know there are people in the prison who are skillful, but they are not given the opportunity to teach others, pass on their skills. And for those who cannot go out to work, perhaps as an incentive, they could be paid for that as well, given an allowance of some sort. Opportunities to develop self-employment provision through provision of workshops, because as soon as inmates get out, if the employees know that they've been to prison, it's difficult for them to get employment, but giving them entrepreneurship, they'll be able to employ themselves. Provide family mediation, aim to re-establish links with family members, especially those who committed crime against families. Use of visual and performing arts as a media for self-expression, enhance their self-esteem, so on and so forth. Build a bank of volunteers who will assist prison, transform rehabilitation from being staff limited to community power to ensure continuity, diversity, and sustainability. Work program. After school supervision maintenance work program, like there are schools that needs maintenance. Prison could have that cooperative. After school, they go to the schools, they do certain work. Of course, there is a budget in all schools where they can transfer that budget to these people. Highway landscape maintenance, removal of invasive creepers. In fact, we even discussed about maintenance of the tea factory, because it's very easy for somebody to be a tea connoisseur. So there are many inmates who can be easily trained to be an expert in that area. Also observation of emerging recommendation, alternative community service, like a payback sentence for non-violent crimes. Court to review and apply alternative sentencing strategies, especially for lesser crimes, aiming to reduce incarceration rates and promote rehabilitation. Possible enlistment of the boot camps for young offenders. Possible enlistment into military as an alternative custody, like they go and train there. Opening of and training of staff for new high security facility systems and process to be updated to reduce all types of corruption, including the use of drones as part of an updated modern security surveillance system. Inmate credit system to develop rewarding engagement for good behavior. Review and support of probation services.
I want you to read through because we don't allow the witnesses to read prepared statements. But just summarize as you have been doing.
Career a pathway for those who's got the talent, and also engage them in the environmental activities. Prison health care, reintroduce of health and wellness program, and sports, addiction counseling, so on and so forth. Education as well. For them to access higher education, vocational training, and workforce planning, do skills analysis of the current workforce so that we can train inmates so they go back where there's a lacking. Economic impact, responding to there's something regarding the economic and budgeting. Prison research to identify gaps and for future direction. Police reviews to visit certain facilities, and meeting with the minister to communicate this, meeting with acting commissioner and senior officers or leadership team for, like you talk about restorative justice, establishment of Friends of Prison, all the support groups, so on and so forth. For them to have education manager who will take care specifically of the education. Reduction of prison population by alternative sentencing. So I mentioned a few things what can be done regarding that. And these are some of the recommendations that we've made following our observations from visits.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I think that's quite comprehensive. And you had said you will share some of those.
We will send.
I mean, just out of interest, what do you think about the opportunity for prisoners to also contribute to also express their views on legislative bills? Like when Parliament comes up with or debates these bills and collects views from the public, right?
Well,
You don't think inmates?
no, I don't say that they are not intelligent to do that, but, well, I have reservations.
Okay. Okay. No. I think it's absolutely fine. It's just that we are now at the end of the hearing. We would have discussed more about that, but I think it's something to discuss further in another platform and think of, because on one hand, inmates are still part of your society, except that they are serving a sentence, and they still have a right to participate in government. But you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to...
Sorry, excuse me. Just clarifying, does that mean they will have the right to vote as well?
Well, in other jurisdictions they do, but...
I say, why not?
Yeah, because the right to vote itself is a right that belongs to all citizens who are of a certain age.
It's constitutional right to association.
Freedom.
Yeah.
So as long as there are mechanisms to enable them to, because they have a right to participate in government, which means the right to give their views on lawmaking, just as you and I can. Their right to vote, just like you and I can. They don't have the right to freely move because they are serving a sentence.
I'm very interested to research that in all
yes, but that can be
jurisdictions.
part of the research, yeah?
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
no, that's fine. You wanted to...
I just say, why not?
Okay.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to ask Madam Emmet.
Because we have one more
Yes.
witness, yeah.
I just wanted to ask Madam Emmet. I see you brought a very comprehensive test of list of recommendations, out of which maybe I would say 30% is in existence, is being carried out, and 70% was actually there. What happened to them? Why were they?
I wouldn't know that. What happened?
You never tried to ask? Most of them that I heard you talk about, they were there and they were functioning correctly. And I'm surprised to hear that they are no longer in existence. So we start again now. We've got to restart.
Or the level of these incentives should be like raised.
No, I think let us conclude. Thank you very much, Ms. Desiree Hamid, for your time and your cooperation. I would like to just publicly state that you have a right not to be intimidated by anyone as retribution for your views that you have shared this afternoon. Your family should also not be intimidated or threatened or harassed in any way as retribution for your cooperation with the Commission. If that happens, we encourage you to report by way of contacting the Commission so that the Commission can take appropriate action to protect you.
Thank you.
Should you, going forward, come across any other information that you think can be helpful for the Commission, please share with us. If we also take the view in our work that perhaps you need to give us more information, we will contact you and arrange that you give us further information, maybe by way of an affidavit or by way of another hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at this point, I would like to thank you and wish you enjoy the rest of your day, which has almost ended.
Thank you for the invitation as well to address the
Thank you
commission.
very much.
All the best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Wait 1 minute. Wait 1
while
minute.
they are terminating the,
1 minute,
the
please.
broadcasting,
We have to terminate the
we
broadcasting.
ask you to terminate so that we prepare for the next week.